Rob, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me, and so glad we're here today to talk about your company and your relationship with us here at Dri Mark. So welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So Rob, why don't you tell us, and let's start off, why don't you tell a little bit about your company, and then we'll kind of dive in and talk about your relationship with us and your experience working with us.
All righty. Um, Customized creation started out as, although we didn't have the term back then, a side hustle. During the daytime, I worked designing hydraulic systems, doing hydraulic troubleshooting, and teaching basic hydraulic training for our company. And I had a workshop, and I started doing some woodworking and selling the products. A few years later, we accumulated a button making machine where we could make little buttons like this one. Made them for my kids, their sports teams, and the school events. Um, and that all went on very well until my wife had multiple sclerosis, and it got to the point where she couldn't be left alone for long periods of time. So we decided I would leave the hydraulic company and start a small business at home so that I could be her full time caretaker and also earn a living. We started out making and selling buttons, and then I had the idea for retouching photographs because back then in the early 80s, not a lot of people had the ability to do things like that. So I came up with the idea that people could send me a photograph and I would retouch it and put a title on it, and we would put a full size magnet on the back, and then they could smack it on the refrigerator and have a memento of whatever it was. A friend suggested to me that, hey, this would be a really great idea if it was Dri Erase. And so I pulled out the Thomas Registry and went leafing through the pages. And the first listing that I found was for Dri Mark.
Hmm.
So I gave Dri Mark a call and talked to them. They sent me some samples. And then we went from going from a little photo to the idea of we're going to make a calendar. You can send me a photo that's important to you, and then I'll fade it out, put it in the background, and you'll have a monthly calendar. And we'll provide a Dri Mark, I believe it's a DW 2627 marker with it. And then I also provide a little plastic clip with it that holds the marker.
So
And
smart.
that started with Dri Mark. And when the kids got old enough that they could take care of their mom over the weekends, I started teaching a basic hydraulics class on the weekends. So one of the kids would get off of school on Friday. I would travel on Friday. I'd teach on Saturday, and I'd come back on Sunday. So pretty much my business is three things now. One is I do the calendars. Two is that I sell these little plastic clips that fit the Dri Mark markers. And three, I have a 2-day basic hydraulics course that I go around the country and teach to companies where they want their maintenance people to understand hydraulics.
Well, good for you. You got a nice business there, and thanks for sharing the story about your wife. And we'll make this conversation in honor of your wife. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
And sorry for the loss of your wife. I know it's been a little while now, but again, thank you for sharing. And so I know you mentioned how you came across Dri Mark in the directory. How many years now are you working with Dri Mark?
I looked and I made my first phone call to talk to a nice lady named Dee back in 1998. So it
Wow.
has been a few years.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow, that's quite a while. And from the aspect of working with Dri Mark, what do you like about us? Anything you could, what do you feel you could share about working with us?
Sid, if everybody that I dealt with was as good and as friendly and as helpful as the folks at Dri Mark, my life would be a breeze.
That's a good
They
thing.
are everybody that you talk to, whether it's customer service people, whether it's the accounting people. I've even talked to the CEO once or twice, and they are just friendly, helpful, professional, courteous. It's like there's this phrase that they ask you on surveys: did this person take ownership of your problem? It's almost like these people are part of my business. They work very hard to help me succeed. So the biggest thing that I like about Dri Mark is the people that you deal with. Um, and then there are a couple of other things that I like about them. Big one is that your markers are made in the United States. And I am very big on buying made in USA. So that's a big selling point. In all the years, I have never had a late delivery. They've always delivered on time with the correct product. I've never had an incorrect product delivered to me. I have had a couple occasions where I have resold your markers to people, and they've called me up and said, "Hey, Rob, I need these right away. Somebody goofed up, and can you get these to me by the end of the week?" And a call, and 2,000 markers go out the door that week, blind shipped, where there's no reference to Dri Mark on it, so the customer doesn't know where it came from, and my customers got their stuff in time. So we're looking at really great people, product made in the United States, and outstanding customer service. And as I think back over the years, the only things that I've had an issue with, and it's really a non-issue, is I think out of all the thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of markers that I have purchased, we've had a grand total of maybe 6 or 7 where either the caps weren't on or the caps were cracked. So, you're talking 6 or 7 bad markers out of hundreds of thousands. That's unbelievably good quality control.
Yeah,
So
and we really strive for that.
And, it's a great experience.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And talk about, when people think of markers, they think markers, there's markers. As far as the ink and lasting as compared to other markers that you've had the opportunity to use, and quality there. I know you've addressed a little bit of that. Anything else you could share regarding that?
Every now and then, I have a customer drop me an email that says, "Rob, it's been 4 years since I ordered
4 years
from you, and I'd like to order some new markers." Wow. The key, I believe, with any marker is that you store it horizontally and you store it out of the sunlight. And my markers get put on calendars that get in the refrigerator, and I give them the clip where it's mounted horizontally. And 4 years of usage, and they use these on a daily basis, is really good. The other thing that I've found is when I first started using the Dri Mark markers, I made myself a little chart, and I wrote something in a chart, and the chart had 1998, 1999, 2000. I had 8 years worth of cells on the chart, and I wrote all over on the chart. And then every year I would erase 1 year to see if the marking still erased easily after a year. And it did erase easily after a year. And it did erase easily after 2 years, and easily after 3 years. When we got to 4 years, I had to put a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on it. But the Dri Erase Marker was easy to erase for 3 years. And I just cleaned one off recently that I had written on about 10 years ago, and I had to put some isopropyl alcohol on it, but it erased very easily. So long lasting and easy to erase. I don't know what else you could ask for in a Dri Erase Marker.
Absolutely. That is quite a long time. That is fantastic to hear that. Obviously, we've been dealing with the pandemic. What's been your experience with working with us and the relationship with us through the pandemic?
The orders that I have placed with Dri Mark through the pandemic have been treated just the same as the ones before the pandemic. My only issue is that some of my customers have had problems and they aren't ordering as much. But your folks have gotten through the pandemic with me without any drop at all in customer service, lead time, turnaround, or anything like that. So I've been very happy with it. That's
great. That's great. And I think you give some good feedback from the perspective of customers as well. So it gives us a good highlight of your experience with us. And we really appreciate your business and wish you continued success. And really appreciate you joining me today to dive in only just a little bit to give people a perspective. So if they are thinking about working with Dri Mark, they can get an idea from someone like yourself who's been working with us for quite a long time now. So thank you again, Rob, for joining me today, and really appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Sid. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.